Welcome everyone. Welcome to another one of our AcQuum Insights sessions. Today what we're doing is we're talking about banking automation. We're talking about banking automation in Australia and New Zealand as compared to Europe at the moment, which is a little bit further ahead than us. So we'll just run through the agenda. I'll be doing a brief introduction today and then handing over to Caleb Kalame from Succinct to provide us with the main part of the webinar today. And then what we'll do is we'll open the mics and the chat for feedback and questions. The chat's actually open now. If you want to pop questions in the chat, I'll read those out at the end of the session. And let's make it as interactive as possible. My first job today, importantly, is to provide the acknowledgement of country. So I'm based here in Melbourne on the lands of the Wurundjeri people. So the Wurundjeri have been here for over 40,000 years. They've been the custodians of the waterways, the animals, and the plant life that we so love and respect here in Melbourne and in Australia. So I'd love to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. And I thank them for all the custodianship that they have provided over that 40,000 years. As mentioned today, Caleb, the founder of Succinct, will be providing us some insights from Europe and the UK around banking automation. So those of you who don't know, Succinct is an extended financial management solution that sits over the top and around SunSystems. It's product agnostic, but it has been sitting over Sun for the last year or two. So Caleb will take you through not a product demonstration. This is all about education and around what we can expect with banking automation in the next couple of years. I think you'll really enjoy it. And without further ado, Caleb, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Leon, and thanks for inviting me here today to chat to yourself and to all the attendees. So hello, very good morning to you all. Okay, so I'm going to start off with just a couple of slides to lay the groundwork, let's set the scene for what is happening with banking and automation over in Europe and in the UK particularly. So just to kind of set where we are, Succinct, I'm Australian, but Succinct is based in London with a head office, and where we focus primarily on the Sun systems, but also other bits of software, the banking solutions and other solutions as well, to do integrations with the various banks over there in the UK and Europe. And open banking really is the exciting thing that's come along more recently, and it's coming to Australia, and that's what I'm going to be showing you today. So let me just switch across to the PowerPoint presentation that I've got. One moment. Okie dokie. All right, so hopefully we can see this coming through now. Okay, so the banking and automation insights from Europe. So look, as I mentioned before, Succinct is based in Europe, in London, in the UK, and we're proudly the first and only open banking solutions for SunSystems in the world. We really strive to kind of future-proof and leverage, modern technologies that are coming out as bleeding-edge technologies, and this solution that we have really does future-proof your investment in Sun, and allows you to connect to about 2,500 financial institutions across the world. So, what is open banking? Well, best to set the scene as to where we've come from. So here we can see our various traditional banks that we have. I've got a couple of examples there: HSBC, ANZ, NatWest. This represents the banking scene that it has been for the past few decades, and only really until recently. And what this has been is, as you're probably familiar with and haven't really been exposed to anything else, is it's a closed, controlled ecosystem. Every bank is separate to each other. Their offerings, their solutions, their bits of data that they provide are all very different to the next. They give you what they want to give you, and you have to accept what they have available. It's a very opaque and isolated ecosystem and environment that has a lot of high barriers to entry. And I give you the perfect case for this. I was recently speaking to a customer who was wanting to connect to a bank that's not part of open banking, and they were going to charge them £750 a month for the right to download a CSV file and upload a CSV file of their various transactions from that banking institution. £750 a month. That's just because they could. Open banking does away with that kind of approach that the banks were able to get away with for a long time. Because what they were able to get away with is an unregulated data and unregulated poor security that ultimately, at the end of the day, wasn't part of the 21st century, the offerings that we expect these days. So there should be some familiar files that you hopefully, well, maybe would have seen. We have an example here of a BAI, an AI2 file, ABA file, or a NatWest Group file. This is just the kind of files that you probably would go and download when you log into CBA or ANZ or the National Australia Bank, for example, or when you want to upload payment files. These files here, actually, if you have a look at them, they actually hark back to the old magnetic tape days, where you're actually, the parts of the data within the files here represent points within the magnetic tape of a data reel that the banks would use to transfer information between the banks. And it hasn't really changed since then. They're all CSV files or particular delivered length files as well. They're all different. And they don't really make much sense. Open banking does away with this. So the traditional, bricks and mortar banks that have been used to being able to share data in an insecure way through non-standard file formats. The data is not real time. You have to go and download those files and transactions from the bank. They don't give it to you. You have to go and get it. It's a very stale and disjointed system because one bank's data file will be different to the next. And it's typically what that means is that solutions out there on the market then provide costly file formats that you have to go and purchase in order to import those files into your accounting system. SunSystems' perfect case. You have to go and get file formats to download the various different statements from different banks, and they all cost yearly annual fees. Well, the Assistant Treasurer in Australia actually just had a recent conference where he said that, as you can see here, the feedback we've heard is that the data holders, often the banks, have made it difficult for businesses and individuals as well to access their own data. And that's true. So what is open banking and how does it change this? So open banking is a concept of financial data sharing between banks, institutions, and third-party service providers through APIs. No files. No files, APIs. And when I say banks and institutions, what I mean by that is you've got your banks, your Commonwealth Bank, your NatWest, those kind of institutions there, but you also have other institutions as well. PayPal, for example, TransferWise, virtual spending cards. They're all institutions that open banking allows you to get access to that data in real time. And then you have third-party service providers such as Succinct and other providers out there as well. They're able to leverage that information. It uses the same security and encryption that's used between the banks themselves. And because it's no longer a file-based approach, it's an API data stream, it means that it now has a lot more rich data that is in real time in a standardized format. And that rich data is really quite amazing. Some of the stuff that's coming through there really does allow you to kind of supercharge your bank processes. Just for the history of it, 2015, it was the EU that really triggered the whole open banking approach and the revolution, really. And that was through what's called PSD2, Payment Services Directive number 2 in 2015. And when this was passed, it was part of the EU's kind of effort to open up data, to allow users of data, owners of data, to have access to that data. I have information in my bank account. I should be able to get it. You as a company have information in your bank accounts. You should be able to get it easily, freely, and not have these barriers set up, have to navigate the barriers that the banks themselves set up. The UK then came along, obviously this is before Brexit, and enforced open banking data access across the CMA in 2018. What that meant was the banks were dragged kicking and screaming in some cases to enable open banking so that any individual or organisation in the UK could access their data for free through open banking. It required that kind of, stick, so to speak, for the banks to do that. Australia saw that this was happening and they launched CDR in 2018 as well. CDR stands for Consumer Data Rights. And effectively, you'll see us use this term interchangeably. Open banking, CDR, they're the same. They're not quite the same, but effectively for the conversation today, we'll say that they are the same. In Australia, the CDR encompasses not just banking information, but actually includes other information as well around utilities and tax information, electricity information, various other bits of data that will be coming along through the whole kind of scheme of CDR over the next few years. In 2021, the deadline for CDR was applied to all the banks, and CDR is now available in all the banks, whether people are using it or not. We'll come back to that just a little bit later. So today, PSD3 was released by the EU, and the open banking standards across the EU and UK, version 4 was released just a couple of months ago. And with them comes some really amazing tools that you will be able to leverage, not just in Europe, but also it will come into Australia as well. Really amazing things like VRP, automated account sweeping that you can control, doing away with direct debits and setting up instant real-time ability to send out subscription information, for example, to collect payments or to move amounts between banks easily without you actually having to log into the bank itself. And we now have I'll be honest, this number is probably a little bit too low. It's probably more about 3,500 institutions worldwide. So what does it mean? Real-time data feeds, real-time feed of information into your bank, into your accounting system. So you get that cash balance visibility. We have enriched data. That data is then able to drive some of our AI reconciliation processes as well. No file formats. Much lower fraud risk because there's no files. It's server to server. We have that bank grade security. And importantly, open banking is free. It must be free by law. So I'll show you what that looks like now. And I'm going to be doing it from the perspective of the UK. Why that is the case is because, again, as I mentioned, CDR is coming along nicely within in Australia. It's not yet at the level that we see in the UK and in Europe. I'll come to a few of those points a little bit later on after the demo. I'm going to show you what we can and will be able to do in Australia very, very soon. But in the UK, it's much more advanced, and that's the demonstration that I'll show you. So I'll connect to a UK bank, I'll download some transactions, and then I'm going to use our AI-assisted tool to drive some of those reconciliations there. So I'll just stop sharing for a moment and bring up my other screen. So you can see my screen here. We've gone into Succinct. So Succinct is our product that connects into SunSystems, has lots of different modules. Banking is just one of them. I've landed here on one of my personal dashboards within our demo environment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and connect to a bank. Now, slight caveat here, I'm in Melbourne at the moment. Our pre-sales environment is based in London, so a little bit of lag. Apologies for that. When you're connecting to an Australian bank, it will be much better. So I'll go to account setup. And I'm going to connect into one of my online accounts. And we're going to go down to what we call our fake bank accounts. These are just demonstration bank accounts that the banks themselves set up for allows you to connect into for training and testing and things like that. We can see all sorts of different banks here. Some of them are real, some of them actually are fake. And we've got one here for NatWest. I like to use NatWest. Some of you hopefully will be familiar with it. Large bank over in the UK. I'm going to connect into that. And now we have what's called the legal framework around which you're connecting into the bank. So it's a few little conditions you need to click here. I'm going to select that box and I'll hit confirm. Now, this is really key, this part here. Notice how I've been taken away from Succinct and I'm now being directed to the actual bank's website. It's the Sandbox website version of NatWest. But we're taken away from Succinct to the bank's website because it is at the bank itself where you log in and give what's called consent for Succinct to see your transaction feed or create payments. It's read-only, it's consent-based. At no stage does Succinct ever have your banking credentials. They are never entered into Succinct because open banking strictly prohibits it. This is very different to what you might be familiar with in Australia called screen scraping, where I know Xero uses this, for example, and some other users, some other applications use this as well, where actually you give them the login details for ANZ or CommBank or whatever bank you use, and they then log in on your behalf. And then they go and scrape that data from the page and then provide that into a structured file that then feeds into your accounting system. Fresh news coming out I think only a few weeks ago. Looks like screen scraping is about to be banned in Australia within the next 12 months because they'll be forcing everyone to go down the open banking route, which is far more secure. So I'm going to log in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2. Very secure customer number because it's a demonstration environment. They even give me the password. 572436. I'll hit continue. Again, I've not entered any credentials into Succinct. It's at the bank that I'm giving that consent. I'm then presented with my sample accounts. I'll say that one and that one, confirm access. And within just a couple of clicks at the bank, Succinct has been able to get access into that, has able to see in a read-only, with read-only security, your transaction feed. So give that a moment. Return back to Succinct, and I'll go back to my accounts. There they are. There's my little NatWest accounts there. Let's click on that nice big one. I wish that was my account. I wish I had £90,000 sitting in it. Unfortunately not. I'll hit download. And as that's downloading, you'll see the transactions start to appear. So what's happening here? So then goes out and fetches those transactions from your bank. And these can come in typically in real time. Some banks don't provide it real time. It varies from bank to bank on their own internal policies, but typically speaking, you'll see it come in real time. Now we're seeing this transaction feed here. There's no files to upload. There's no files to download. The system reaches out to the bank, downloads those files and presents them here. And then it's up to you to go through and code them up, reconcile them to your ledger, automatically apply some coding. There's all sorts of functionality that we can do within the application here. I'm not going to actually delve too much into that now. What I want to show you is how leveraging the transactional information that's come through from open banking, we can use our AI system or go through and automatically try to match those transactions off or automatically code them up for you. So I've got this nice little neat auto rec tool here. I'm just going to run it from, I don't know, let's say the 1st of July. There we go. Let's grab it there until today. Yeah, and then hit run. System's going off and we'll start to automatically reconcile those. Now, this is typically done on import. So as the transactions appear and come through from the bank feed, the system will try to run these auto recs for you. You don't have to use auto rec if you don't want, but it's a nice little tool there that when everything is set up nicely and you've actually able to guide the system at the start, should in theory be able to get you when you come in the morning and you see those transactions there, most of them should have already been coded for you. And so you just have to deal with any exceptions. Great, so I can see here that 4 transactions have been automatically coded. What that means is it's actually been able to recognize some of these transactions here and set them up to be automatically coded, for example, to bank fees, rent, or other kind of charges that might be applied. And then it's just a case of you coming in and saying, yep, I'm happy with this, submit that, and that will automatically send create a journal for SunSystems, which we'll see is getting posted in real time, which get posted to your ledger and marked as reconciled. Now, if you already have transactions in your system, in your ledger already, there we go, that's posted for us. Nice, there we go. If we have the transactions in the ledger already, it can automatically match those ledger transactions one-to-one, one-to-many, and provide that reconciliation there for you. So I'm just going to stop sharing now and switch back to my screen, my PowerPoint screen. I want to show you now just a couple more things. So, demonstration, connected to a bank, downloaded those transactions, ran some reconciliations. The next thing I want to do is give you just a slightly different perspective of what open banking can do, and that's in bank detail validation. You hopefully or use supplier onboarding methodologies that ensure that when a new supplier or customer comes on board, you're validating their details, whether that's their company numbers, bank details, etc. Sync has a really cool tool that leverages open banking that can do away with some of those manual processes that you have here. So I just want to now stop sharing. There we go. Okie dokie. So what you can see here is we have a supplier onboarding invitation where we as a company have Prezzo Limited have sent to a supplier a request to onboard themselves as a new supplier here, giving us a nice little link, the unique code. So I'll go in here. So I'm putting my hat on now as someone who is a supplier. I might be a freelancer, it might be another company that your customers are engaging with. So I'll hit log in and I'm presented with an onboarding form. And I'll jump really straight to the open banking part, the really, really neat feature. I'm just going to put in our name here. I'm going to put in our name actually, so Sync Limited, because that way we can actually validate against one of our own bank accounts. I can do an account company lookup. We've got Australian lookups here as well. I'm going to use the UK one because that's the 300, and that's gone off and checked with UK's company house to confirm that those details are valid. We, as I showed here, we have the ability to connect into ABN and ACN lookups, TST lookups, other EU lookups as well. So I'm going to use these details. But I want to really come down the bottom here, and what I want to show you is this part here, the bank detail entry. So you could enter in your details here manually, BSB number, account number, etc., etc. That's fine, and as you can do that, and typically you'd want to go off and manually do a call up, let's say, to confirm those details are correct. But we can do secure account validation as well through open banking, and I'm going to do that now with one of my live real world bank accounts. So I'm going to say account validation. I'm going to say UK. I have a small bank account set up at a bank called Monzo in the UK. I'll click that. It's going to just the legal confirmation here. So confirm. Okay, it's taken me out of Succinct to the actual bank itself. This is a real account detail. Don't worry, there's not much money in it, so we'll just use it for testing. Okay, put in the sort code. So you'll be able to do this with your Australian banks too, through what's called confirmation of payee, which is coming soon as well. So I'll just put in the details. Hit continue. Oh, sorry, my apologies. I didn't do the right one in. 8300981 and 040004. Yes. KBKALANE. Oh, cool. All right. Hopefully I got it right this time. Apologies about that. There we go. And what's happening now is if I share, if you look to my screen, you may or may not see this. It's actually come up on my mobile phone, saying that the Succinct requesting that we share the account name and number with succinct to confirm the identity. So I'm just going to hit continue. And Face ID on my mobile, that's fine. Yep, okay. And as we can see now on the screen here, successfully connected. If I say return to succinct, bank details self-validation complete. To show you what that means, there we go, immediately updated. What's happened here is that the bank itself has provided succinct through my consent, my own personal consent, details of the bank account, including name, beneficiary, sort code, account number, IBAN. It could be BSB or a SWIFT codes or anything like that as well, depending on which account you have. But importantly, it is the institution, the bank itself, that is providing that information. It is not a user entering it in. It is the user telling the bank to give to succinct via open banking those details. They're 100% accurate. Completely eliminates fraud happening there. So where are things? State of play. As I mentioned, Australia is a little bit behind where the UK and Europe are, but is catching up very quickly. As we saw from that comment from the Assistant Treasurer, the regulatory and compliance costs have been very high. So it has been a barrier for the entry of third-party providers such as Succinct. But that is changing. Legislation from December last year, and also some changes that came through in August, have meant that they've recognised that open banking has to happen. Hence why, as I mentioned before, screen scraping, whilst the official announcement hasn't been made, the discussion from the Treasurer, the Assistant Treasurer, is that screen scraping will be banned within about 12 months' time. So now there will be this incentive to transition across to CDR open banking. The government has said that the reset of CDR on the 9th of August, which includes that banning of screen scraping, will effectively, my interpretation of it is it's going to be forcing companies and banks down this approach of using the CDR consent. The great thing about CDR in Australia is it takes it to a next level beyond what is available in Europe. So it's covering not just bank account information and payment initiation, but also things around things like, for example, utilities, being able to do various other account sharing, and there's a whole broad scope of what information can be provided through CDR to enable your accounting platform or other platforms that you have to talk to each other instantly, to share that information in a secure, consented way. And so the government's stated priorities are around finance and borrowings. That's more on the consumer side. Energy switching is a great example. Not so much required for the corporate business side, but for consumers that will be a big part, and obviously in accounting services. So that's really where I wanted to end my little chat today. I'm going to hand back to Leon.
Yeah, that's cool, Carla. Thank you very much. The screen scraping thing is going to have a massive impact. You can see it, can't you? Like it's just everything's been much more transparent, and certain organisations will need to change the way or software providers will need to change the way they do things. Yep. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's right. So zero is a big one that's going to be impacted by that.
Yeah, yep. And I like the supplier onboarding one as well. So that should curtail the need for organisations or AP areas or teams to have to pick up the phone and dial in and ask for the bank details of someone that's coming straight from the bank. Yeah.
That's right. It's coming straight from the bank. In practice, what we see though is, you're not going to be getting your Qantases to log in and provide that consent. That's not going to happen. They're still going to want to be entering in a bank detail and want that phone call. That's fine, but we provide that. You can do those various different options there to provide that information. Another great thing that I didn't show on this was the confirmation of payee. So when you go to create a payment to someone, let's say doing a payment run, and you're going to go and pay, I'm going to pay you, Leon. I've put some details in there. Now, if I've mistyped your name, or if it's a an incorrect number, or maybe you're actually being fraudulent and you've got someone else's details in there, before you actually go to initiate that payment, it will come up and say, these details don't match. And in some cases, the banks won't even allow you to push it through. They might suggest what the new details are, or they won't let the payment go through until everything matches nicely.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, well, we've got a bit to look forward to over the next little while, don't we? It sounds a little bit like it's going to be like an OSCO experience in personal banking, like on the payment side as well. So can't wait. Yeah. We're at the end of our half hour anyway. So thanks heaps. We do appreciate you presenting today.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Kiri, thanks for pulling all this together. Ryan, thanks for doing the tech components. To everyone, thank you for coming along. We do appreciate it. If this type of thing is of interest to you, please check out our LinkedIn site. We do post there quite regularly. This type of content, as well as tips and tricks and things of that nature around the product. So let you get on with your days. Please, have a great day, and thank you for attending. Bye.